Good morning. I have a quick joke for you. Really, it's not a joke. It is just a question. What doesn't belong? Binoculars, eyeglasses, goggles, handlebars, jeans, pliers, scissors, shoes, tweezers. Which one of those does not belong with the rest? Binoculars, eyeglasses, goggles, handlebars, jeans, pliers, scissors, shoes, tweezers. If you said shoes, you are correct because it's the only pair that actually has two separate pieces. That was just something to get your brain going this morning. So this morning we're going to be reading from Upfront, has President Trump on it. And if you read down here at the bottom, it says President on Trial. Once again, if you flip it to its side, it will say issue 152, and it is volume 8. And let's go to page 6. This is a short reading today. And your hair, your right. Some students and employees are being targeted for their hairstyle. New hair discrimination laws aim to stop the practice. Once again, we're on page 6 in the Upfront magazine. I will once again be reading to you. If I come across a word that I think might be difficult, I will define that for you. So let's begin. A high school student in New Jersey forced to cut off his dreadlocks or forfeit a wrestling match. 15-year-old twin sisters from Massachusetts threatened with suspension, kicked off their high school track team, and barred from attending prom for wearing braid extensions. An 11-year-old girl sent home from school in Louisiana, all because of her braids. These are just a few recent examples of Black students being punished for hairstyles that violated dress codes. Now, lawmakers in a growing number of cities and states are hoping to stop that from happening in the future. California and New York last summer became the first states in the country to pass laws that treat the targeting of people based on their hair or hairstyle at school, at work, or in public spaces as racial discrimination. Cincinnati, Ohio, and Montgomery County, Maryland also recently passed similar legislations on the heels of New York City, which banned hair discrimination last winter. And New Jersey, Tennessee, Michigan, Wisconsin, Kentucky, and other states are considering doing the same. The regulations apply to anyone, but they're specifically aimed at remedying the unfair treatment many African Americans face because of the texture or style of their hair. They're based on the argument that hair is inherent to one's race and is therefore protected under existing human rights laws, which outlaw discrimination on the basis of race, gender, national origin, religion, and other protected classes. Schools and businesses in those places can no longer ban certain hairstyles associated with Black people. Students and employees can file discrimination lawsuits if they believe they've been singled out because of their hair. Too often we see people of color, particularly women, who are told their hair is unprofessional or not appropriate in public settings, says New York Assembly Speaker Carl Hastie. These discriminatory policies sideline people of color, keeping children out of their classrooms and diminishing who they are. Stereotyping hair. Throughout history, Black people have been stereotyped because of their hairstyles. Wearing an afro in the 1960s, for instance, was often seen solely as a political statement, even when it was purely stylistic choice, says Nalawi Rooks, a professor of African Studies at Cornell University. People read our bodies in ways we don't always intend, Rooks says. Many Black adults have stories about how their hair has affected them in the workplace. Avery, who works in New York City in court administration and declined to provide her last name for fear of losing her job, says her supervisor, who is white, encouraging her to relax her hair, which she often wears in shoulder-length chestnut-colored braids. She's like, "You should do your hair when it's already styled," or she says, "Straight hair is better," Avery says. A young black woman who gave her name only as Eni says she quit her job as a cashier at Wendy's in New York last year when a manager asked her to cut off her 14-inch hair extensions. I quit because you can't tell me my hair is too long, says Eni. But the other females who are other races, they didn't have to cut their hair. A positive cultural shift. To date, there's no legal precedent in federal court for the protection of hair. Last spring, the Supreme Court refused a request to review a case in which an African American woman had her job offer at an Alabama insurance company rescinded in 2010 after she refused to cut off her dreadlocks. But a growing number of institutions have recently changed their policies on hairstyles associated with Black culture. The Marines approved braid, twist, and lock, often spelled LOC, hairstyles in 2015 with some caveats, and the Army lifted its ban on dreadlocks in 2017. Some students have recently pushed back against school dress codes. In 2017, after Maya and Deanna Cook, 15-year-old twin sisters at Mystic Valley Regional Charter School in Massachusetts, were punished for wearing hair extensions, they refused to cut their hair and appealed their punishment. The Massachusetts Attorney General ordered the school to reverse its policy, and soon after, the black high school wrestler Andrew Johnson was forced to cut his hair before a match in December. State officials in New Jersey opened up a civil rights investigation. Experts think we might see more states adopt similar policy to New York's and California's as black politicians like Stacey Abrams, who ran for governor of Georgia in 2018, and Ayanna Pressley, who represents Massachusetts in Congress, rise in prominence. As more high-profile black women like Abrams and Pressley opt for natural hairstyles, twists, braids, says Chamudi Hook, a professor of labor and employment law at City University of New York School of Law, we may see a positive cultural shift that would impact how courts view these guidelines that seek to prevent discrimination based on hair. I want to read now in the little blue box toward the left side of page 7. It says dress codes and the First Amendment. Do schools have a right to tell you what to wear? More than half of United States schools have dress codes. People who support them say they cut down on distractions. But critics argue that they stifle students' expression, and some even say they violate students' First Amendment right to free speech. Whether that's actually true is complicated, though. In 1969, the Supreme Court ruled in Tinker versus Des Moines that students don't relinquish their right to free speech at school. But the court added that schools can limit student expression if it poses a substantial disruption. Since then, dress code lawsuits have been tried at the state and local level, but the Supreme Court has never taken on one. The Supreme Court's general feeling is that as much as possible ought to be left up to the school districts and the states on dress code issues, says Stephen, a constitutional law professor at American University in Washington, D.C. The effect of that is to leave a wide array of different rulings. And so I'm just going to ask you a few questions. And the first one is, what is the purpose of the new hair discrimination laws being passed in a growing number of cities and states? So to reword that, why are we now having to have new laws written? Another question, why do experts think we might see more cities and states pass hair discrimination laws? And I would point to all the way the third column over on page 7, and it is 2 paragraphs up from the bottom. It says, experts think we might see more states adopt similar policies to New York's and California's as black politicians like Stacey Abrams, who ran for governor of Georgia in 2018, and Ayanna Pressley rise in prominence. Another question, according to the sidebar, that's the blue box, does the First Amendment protect students' right to wear whatever they want to school? I want you to think about that. Does our First Amendment protect your right to wear whatever you want to school? And then one more question before you're given the worksheet is, what does Noali Rooks mean when she says, quote, people read our bodies in ways we don't always intend, end quote. So what's she mean when she says that? People read our bodies in ways we don't always intend. You will be given a double-sided worksheet. Please do it to the best of your ability. And thank you for your attentiveness to listening. And I hope you're having a wonderful day. I hope this stay at home is soon lifted and we're able to be back in school together. And you just have a good day. Thank you.